Hey everybody! Today we're going to learn how to make handmade clasps and use them to make a bracelet. Okay, so the items that I have here are 16 gauge wire, which is the heavy wire that the clasp is going to be made of. This is a 22 gauge wire. 22 or 24 would be useful, but that's for binding down the leather ends together. This is a fake leather actually. A measuring device, a file to file off rough ends, a couple of different chain nose pliers, something to cut my leather with. This is a step plier. This is one of my very favorite items in jewelry making because it's got these different size sections here that you can make different size like jump rings and things like that. So this is a great jewelry item. And a pair of bent nose pliers because the nose is bent. And then something to cut the wire with, wire cutters. So that's the tools that we are starting with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make our handmade clasp. I'm going to straighten out some wire, and I just usually use a rag, an old washcloth, or paper towel works just fine. And I'm going to measure about 2 and 2.5 inches, 2 1/4 inches. Anywhere in there is a good size. So I'll measure 2.5 inches for the clasp. And I'm going to take my wire cutters here and just snip it at that spot. Okay, now I'm going to file this end down because these ends are going to be scratchy. They're a little bit like pointy on the sides there. And so we don't want our jewelry to be scratchy. So we're going to just, I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of twirl it as I file, just like that. And also I'm holding this very close to this end. If I hold it down here and I try to file, I can definitely bend my wire. I do not want to get a kink in this wire. So I'm going to hold it up to this end where I'm filing, and I'm just going to take this on the edge, that on just that very edge. I'm not filing the top like this. I'm filing around it like that. So file the sides right where that meets the top. And I'm just going to feel to see if it feels scratchy. And it doesn't really feel scratchy. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the other side. And again, I'm going to push my fingers up towards where I'm filing. And I'm just going to file around these edges at that, right where it meets the top. So that, kind of that little area right there. So I'm just twirling this in my left hand. The wire is rotating, so I'm not continually filing the same spot. I'm just twirling it kind of back and forth and looking to see if I see any scratchies, and I do not. Okay, so this is actually very easy to make. I'm going to use the smallest part here for the end that's the leather's going to go around, and I'm going to grip it at the very, very tip. I'm not grabbing it down here. I'm grabbing it all the way up here, and I'm going to hold this stable but rotate this in. My right hand is rotating in, and I need to make that little hook that I'm making there twirl all the way in. I am making sure that this wire remains firmly pressed up against this plier, because that is what's going to make it look right. It's the plier is actually forming the shape of the metal. So I'm down there at the end now, and it just looks like a little loop. This end is touching the back of the wire, which is important because if it doesn't, then your component, it can fall right off of your necklace. Okay, so that is all the way in. Now I'm going to kind of make a little upward bend, and I'm going to bend this wire towards this side, just a little tiny bit. I'm just going to give it right at the tip there, a little curve. That's all. Now, I did that on my biggest part, my biggest step of my plier, so that was step 6. There's 6 different sizes here, so the biggest one is step 6, smallest one is step 1. I just kind of invented that, but it works for me for when I'm trying to write down how I make things. Okay, so now I'm going to get my plier, and I could do it on a 6 or a 5, but I'll probably use the 5. This is the 5. It's the second largest of the steps, and I'm going to form this around it. This is going to form our hook. So I'm going to rotate it down, and just like that. And that is like a handmade type of clasp. So you've just made a handmade clasp. Okay, next I'm going to check my wrist measurement. And if you don't know it, I know my wrist measurement, but I'll show you how to check it. So this is a tape measure, it's called, and it's flexible, and it's what is used for sewing and things like that. So I'm going to just kind of put this around my wrist and measure it here. So my wrist measures right about a 6.5. That's pretty standard. Now, I'm going to make this a double length bracelet so it wraps around my wrist twice. So it's going to be 6.5 times 2 is going to be 13. And then I'm going to add 2 inches for binding down for the clasp. I don't actually need quite that much, but better safe than sorry. Okay, so I'm going to measure 15 inches of this. And it doesn't have to be leather. It can be different types of cording. But I'm going to measure 15 inches and cut that with my scissors. And I'm going to put this through this hole. And I'm going to have this like kind of even on this end. Okay, now I'm going to take my thin binding wire. This is a 22 gauge. I probably should be using a 24 gauge. 24 gauge is a little bit thinner. A lot of people use 26. I think 26 is too skinny myself. So the lowest I will go for this binding is a 24. Again, with wire, the bigger the number, the skinnier the wire. It's kind of like opposite. Okay, and I'm going to cut 1.5 inches of this. And I actually need to cut 2 of these pieces. So 1, and then my second one I just measure off of that. And then I just kind of bring the wire cutter up to that point and snip. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take my cord here that is attached to my clasp I made. And I'm going to bring these down so that they are like side by side and that they line up evenly on this end. And this doesn't quite line up evenly, so I've got to adjust it. And now I'm going to make double this over like that. So I'm just folding it over, and I'm now making what this is going to go through. Let me check and make sure that I've done the sizes right. Come on, you. Come on, man. That should be good. It's going to be a little bit on the tight side, which is fine. I could have probably done an extra inch. Come on. Okay. So I'm trying to make this like pretty neat. So it lines up pretty squarely. Okay. So I'm going to grab this wire and I'm going to bend it just with my nail, kind of like so. Just make like a little hook in it. I'm not doing it all the way at the end because I want to be able to kind of reach over this with this wire and grab it. And it's harder if there's not enough space there. So I'm going to reach over this now with that little end I just made, and I'm folding it onto it like this. Now I'm going to hold the short wire still with my thumbnail, and I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers, and I'm going to start binding this around this fairly tightly because this is what's going to keep the bracelet together on this side. So I'm just taking that bent nose plier and I'm like pulling it. Then once I come around, I'm going to tighten it down, and I'm going to keep this right next to it. I'm going to make sure those are landing right next to each other. That's just kind of how I make jewelry. I try to keep it there. Now I'm bringing it around this side. I'm going to keep on wrapping it around until I'm out of wire. Tighten it down. When you get to the end, it can get tough, but it's very important that you don't leave like this little tail there, this little sharp tail there, okay? Because that just catches on things. You need to tuck this down. And this is probably the single trickiest part of jewelry making, to be honest. It's what a lot of people don't do, is tuck those ends down, and it's just not the way to do it. It's just messy, and it doesn't work. So I'm going to kind of grab that end, and I'm just kind of going to rotate down there. I'm just taking my bent nose pliers, and I'm kind of rotating them that way. And then I see this is a little bit off there, so I'm just going to straighten that up with those pliers. And now I've got this little end here, so I got to do my other end. That's the one that I've been holding. Started off as the short end, and I'm going to tuck that down onto this side. Okay. Now that goes through there like that. Okay, yeah, that'll be good. Okay, so now I'm going to take my second binding wire, and just for neatness sake, I'm going to bind this side of this clasp. So I'm going to take this, again, I'm going to make that little hooky, and bend her down. Make sure that this is straight on here. And I'm going to hold this end. Once again, I'm holding this shorter wire with my thumbnail of my left hand, and I'm going to start wrapping this around. My second wire didn't actually have to be as long as my first wire because the first wire was going around twice as much leather because I doubled it. So I might not wrap this entire thing in. One of the trickiest parts about jewelry is it's kind of slippery. It's small, so you're always trying to kind of like grab it and capture it and things. Okay, yeah, I'm going to cut this end off here because I just don't need that much. I want to take this flat end. I'm not taking the end that has like the cave in it. I'm not using this end because that end's gonna make it sharp. This end is going to give you like the flat end's gonna give you like a duller cut, and that's good. So I'm making sure I do not cut. I'm pulling this away, and I'm trying to kind of pull everything away from the wire I'm cutting. And I just kind of leave that little tiny tail, which I'm going to now tuck in with this. And you'll get the hang of that. It just takes a little bit of practice. And I'm going to take this end, now my first end that I've been holding, and I'm also going to tuck that down. And that's it. We've just made a bracelet. And it clasps here. Okay, so there you have it.